Hello, hello, greetings and welcome to The Debate. What are we talking about? We're talking about the J-League, kicked off back in 1993, boasting fantastic Japanese and non-Japanese players with a brilliant future. However, there is still a lot of improvements that could be made, and that's what we'll be talking about today. So today we have a representative of the J-League, Hirose-san. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good.
Are you prepared for this?
Maybe a little, but I'm excited.
You're excited?
Yes, to be here
I mean,
today.
everybody's going to be fairly honest with you, yeah? So,
Yes.
but you're going to be
I'm ready
answering
to-
honestly, yeah?
Yes.
Excellent, excellent. Brilliant. And now let us introduce the wonderful J-League lovers that we have today. Victoria, would you like to do the honors?
Yes, first of all, we have Stephen. Would you like to say a few words about yourself?
Yeah, my name's Steve Moore. I'm the Asia editor for a company called Sports News Television. I'm based in Singapore, and SNTV is the largest sports video agency in the world. We're a joint venture between the Associated Press and IMG, and basically we supply clips, highlights, interviews into newsrooms globally.
Wonderful.
Okay, so if you're based in Singapore, I mean, you're going to probably be giving us some words about how the J-League is covered in Singapore too later on, right?
Oh, definitely. I can talk about the international outreach,
Uh-huh.
some of our efforts we've been doing with the J-League as well, and just the feedback I get from clients because I talk to broadcasters
Right,
generally
all
every
the
day.
time. Thank you very much for coming, Steve. Cheers.
Next, we have Stuart.
Yep, nice to meet you. So I'm Stuart. I've lived in Japan over 30 years.
Right.
But I've been watching J-League seriously for 6 years. Fan of Yokohama F. Marinos.
Yeah, I didn't quite realise that, to be honest.
Well, no, I always dress like this.
Yeah, but congratulations. I mean, a fantastic
Thank you very much.
He's
season, right?
comfortable.
Yeah, so I got interested in watching soccer in Japan when my son got interested. He was about 10 years old.
Right.
So I said, let's support the local team, and I went to many matches the first year, and then the second year I went to all home, all away matches around Japan.
Right.
So, and I've been a regular since then.
Excellent. So you really know the ins and outs of the stadiums and the atmosphere, the relationship between the players, and the atmosphere just eclectic.
Yeah.
It's amazing, isn't it? So
Yeah.
we'll be talking about that later on
Yeah,
too.
I was hooked from the first day.
First day.
Yeah.
Oh, just like yourself. Isn't
Yes,
it? Yeah.
just like me.
Thank you. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then we have Sean. What's your story?
My story's shorter than these two guys. I'm a freelance writer. I've been here for 10 years and write about the J-League, occasionally come on shows like this and talk about the J-League. And I'm really looking forward to hearing what people's opinions are and seeing if we have any that vary. Yeah,
Excellent. Thank you very much. Cheers.
no problem.
Dan, another fellow American.
Yes, my name is Dan Orlowitz. I'm the head soccer writer at the Japan Times. I've lived in Japan for just about 13 years, and yes, this was my 12th or 13th season following the J-League, and I've started blogging and then moved on to writing about the J-League and Asian soccer and the national team, and that's what I've been doing for about 8 or 9 years now.
Excellent. So we'll be asking a lot about your expertise about the J-League too, but also maybe possibly the national side, and with what it's been experiencing over the last how many years has it been? 17 years since the World Cup was actually held over here. So thank you very much for coming today. Cheers. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you.
Cheers. Right then, so gentlemen, and everyone who's kindly watching this program, as you realise, there's a lots of drinks on the table. Shall we start this off in the Japanese style with the kanpai then?
Yeah.
Excellent. Kanpai, cheers.
Kanpai.
Cheers, cheers, cheers.
Kanpai.
Kanpai, kanpai.
Cheers.
Kanpai, kanpai, kanpai.
Let's try not to spill
Cheers.
any. Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you, thank you. All right, let's go then. Victoria, who should we start off with?
Let's start off with Sean. What do you got on your mind?
Okay, my one is quite long, I'm afraid. I've snuck two into it. Mine is this, that we don't really discuss mistakes that players make here. And also I sometimes feel that in press conferences, especially to coaches, the questions aren't quite harsh enough. Sometimes we need to dig a little bit deeper. So what does everybody think?
Right. So, shall we get everyone to do the honors then?
Yeah, I want you guys to pick agree or disagree on what do you think about this?
We have some cards. There we go. Agree.
A resounding agree.
Well, that's boring. Okay. Next topic.
One second. Hiroshi-san, you don't have a card?
Yes.
You don't have a card.
Actually,
But being a representative of the J-League, okay. So everybody agrees on this situation then?
I also agree.
Right, you agree on this situation.
So-
Would you like to kind of explore a bit more?
Well, I just think that obviously the league wants to convey a positive message. They want the league to keep improving. So in that case, you don't want to focus on the negative things all the time. But I also think this is it's a professional game. The players know when they've made mistakes. I speak to them in the mix zone, and they come out and they know when they've made a mistake. But if you watch the highlights, you watch the games back, the commentators tend not to discuss it. They'll try to focus on the positive. So if a defender makes a mistake, they'll focus on what the striker did that was good or something. And I think in order for the league as a whole to improve, not just the players, but for fans too, to understand what is good and what's bad, I think it's important to sometimes say, okay, he made a mistake. He didn't do it on purpose, but it happened.
Definitely.
Sure. When you're talking about mistakes, what kind of mistakes are we talking about? Are we talking about kind of like insane kind of offside positionings, or are we talking about own goals, or what's the deal then?
It's all of that. It's, if a defender makes a bad pass, if they're in the wrong position, like you said, it plays someone onside. If they do score an own goal, I mean, the J-League don't announce the name of the scorer. It just says own goal.
Yeah.
I don't think that happens anywhere else in the world. Like it's, maybe if it's kids football, if you're talking about an under-8 team, you don't want the kid to go home feeling upset. But,
Sure.
But these are 20, 30-year-old players. If they score an own goal, it's okay to say who it was. That kind of thing. And if a defender makes a mistake, if a striker misses a very good opportunity, anywhere else in the world, they're going to say, like, he really should have scored that. Maybe his positioning was wrong. Maybe he jumped too early. But here they kind of say, oh, that was unlucky, or maybe the ball was a bit too quick, or they kind of try to spin it positively. And
I do see your point. It's sometimes kind of like avoiding reality, the commentating, I'm guilty of this, like I'm working with the games too. Like you'd say something along the lines of like, oh, it's not a bad effort, but, you don't get many commentators or analysts out here in the Japanese and TV scene who kind of properly say, what the hell is he up to? Whereas that's more realistic, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's your say about this, Dan?
It is, and it is nothing that you see anywhere in the world. So I think that's sort of one easy thing that the league could do, and start counting own goals. And you don't need a scoring chart for who scored the most own goals in the season, but you can at least recognize it because someone scored an own goal, and it's just part of the game. I think that commentary in the last couple of years has gotten a little better. I think that they are starting to look at bad plays, to look at controversial plays. It's coming up, it's improving. But I do think that the league could do better to embrace the controversy and to look at plays where a player makes a mistake and say, he screwed up, and I think that's part of the game. And I think that if you look at how foreign leagues embrace that controversy and create that narrative, it does create something that the fans are more invested in.
I want to chime in here. Do any of you think that this is maybe something to do with the Japanese culture to keep harmony or to keep the unity, not call anyone out? What about you?
Yes, I do. I agree. I think so.
So
And yeah.
what can we do to maybe improve that? Just get people to...
I mean, I think this is something that afflicts Japanese sports media right across the board. I mean, I've been doing a lot of Olympic coverage up here. Same thing. Even from the media, questions are tame. Controversies avoided. The fans are smart enough, they're mature enough, and they're ready for it, and they want to hear that kind of stuff. I mean, you look at North America, entire shows are based on
Locker room talk.
yeah, and just on controversy. Talk about it. That's what fans, it keeps you engaged with the league as well. So, I mean, there's a place for how it's done now, but there's also a place where serious analysis can be done, and with that comes controversy at times. You might have to say something bad about somebody.
I do a program called J-Zone with the Zone, right? And this is a program, I don't know if you guys know about this, but it basically dissects the screen into 4 different screens. and it covers J1, J2, J3 simultaneously. And when the goals get in, you know, we focus on each of the screens, right? But we do this not just by myself. We have two specialist ex-football players, and I recently did this with a guy called Bando-san. You know, you guys know Bando, right?
Yeah.
Very well, yeah. And he was so really flipping honest about everything, you know, saying, what is this guy doing? And then we have Hara-san too. I mean, you guys know Hara-san too at the same time. And I think the time has come for there to be a lot more honest, kind of like in the face, maybe the right, maybe it might be a different kind of term, not maybe the right term, but there just seems to be this kind of distance between the real stuff that's going on and the reporting itself. Right?
Now, I think, what you said there, that's kind of builds into the point I made about the press conferences. The press conferences here are, you know, obviously no one wants to ask a coach a controversial thing in front of everyone. You don't want conflict for conflict's sake, which is often what happens in England now. People are looking for scandal where there isn't any. But sometimes there's a question that needs to be asked. Sometimes there's rumours something's happening in the club, or maybe something happened on the pitch, and you need to ask the coach, what's going on, or what do you think about this? I was it wasn't J-League, it was a J-League team in the Asian Champions League final. Urawa Reds played Al Hilal of Saudi Arabia, and the pre-match press conference was brilliant because it was the Saudi journalists asking the Urawa coach these questions. He was never posed in J-League, and they're asking him all this controversial stuff. Would you rather win this competition or not get relegated? Right. Are you guys trying to injure our best players? And you could see that the coach, he was completely out of his comfort zone. And once they're translated from Arabic into English into Japanese, you can see the coach and the player reacting like, what's happening here? And I enjoyed that because you're then getting more interesting answers from them rather than their pre-prepared answers of it's going to be a difficult game, we're going to do our best, the fans are going to be here. They're suddenly gone, hang on a minute, and they're thinking, and then they're giving you a different angle, which I think is important because, as we've said, the fans are mature enough. They want this kind of stuff. It's nothing personal, but this is the story, and you need that rather than just the kind of same old recycled quotes. And I think that's important. And I think the J-League now is almost 30 years old. It's ready now for that maturity, to have a little bit of conflict, a little bit of controversy, and know that it's, like I said, it's nothing personal, but that's part of professional sport.
So, Hirose-san, what do you say then?
Right. Well, it's a tough.
You're in a tough position. However, you know, I think this is not just talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people on the table. You know, there's quite a lot of people out there actually feeling the same sort of sentiment.
Right.
Yeah.
I think J-League is now at, as you mentioned, that it's almost 30 years, and we're on the way to becoming more professional as a league, and the clubs becoming professional. And I think the Japanese culture does reflect the press conference. But as a league, we are hoping to start changing those kind of atmosphere that we have, and to establish more environment where people can ask questions, and for players and coaches to answer in their comfort zone and answer it honestly.
And Postecoglou has no time for fools. He is great in a way because sometimes we'll give him more pointed questions, and sometimes we'll lob softballs at him if we just want to see what he says. But he's always consistent and he's always honest. You've had issues in the past with Brazilian managers who have been maybe a little too honest and put their interpreters in a very difficult position. And everywhere sort of in between. You do notice that when a manager is speaking in English, what they say in English and what gets translated into Japanese can often be two different things.
So a classic occasion about Postecoglou the other day was in the final game. He was asked at half-time what he was thinking about FC Tokyo, and he just came out saying, "I don't care, bye."
And I love it.
The typical Postecoglou.
It is. It's great. And I think that I know that new players, when they join the J-League, they have like their rookie symposium and they go through media training. I think that managers could stand to go through some media training.
I would say the opposite. I think they should stop having the training because then they just
Let it
come out.
naturally, maybe.
Yeah,
That's
they come out
true.
and they have the same. They're already set with their answers, and
They
you can
tell
see
you
them
what you
almost
already
flicking
know.
through.
I don't expect every J-League manager to become like a Jurgen
Mourinho.
Klopp type or a Mourinho type. I mean, it would be amazing and it would make our job so much easier, but it would be nice to get something more authentic, some more personality in their press conferences. And to be fair, that does have to come from the media, and for the managers to give better answers, the media has to ask better questions.
That's exactly
Maybe they can
right.
do some workshops with some foreign journalists and maybe like adapt a little bit.
I do think that part of the rookie symposium should be that they should have foreign journalists talking to the players, because I think that a lot of the time we ask questions that are on a much sort of different track than what Japanese journalists are asking. I think that if you're going to encourage journalists to ask better questions, you need to encourage them to report in different ways, not just articles, but I love to see more video reporting from J-League, from media covering the J-League and things like that. But right now it's sort of so restrictive that what gets written, it only shows up in a short newspaper article the next day. And if we had more freedom to write about these things, then we could go in different directions.
I'm loving the rawness of this conversation.
Yes.
Are you surviving?
Yes.
Letting out our
And I just
frustration.
took a note about that, doing the training for the international media as well.
Yeah, it'll be just
for the
good
players and the coaches.
just to at least take it into account and for the club representatives to understand that we have this kind of situation and that they need to kind of compare it with abroad too. Yeah. Excellent. So yeah,
I'm gonna
do you wanna
moderate
add?
this a little bit. Let's we've gotten pretty heated into this discussion, but I want to move on to hear what Stuart wants to say.
Good stuff.
What have you prepared for us?
Okay, so even more controversial topic.
Uh-oh.
Too much foreign hero worship.
Ooh.
So
What does everybody think about this then?
Okay.
I wasn't expecting such a unanimous agreement.
Yeah.
Okay, so I may be coming from this from a slightly different point of view, but when I go to watch a football match, what really excites me is watching the players that have come up through the club and made it all the way up to the top team, and that means going to not only the league matches but going to the Nabisco Cup in the initial round, group stages, and watching the youth players play there for the first time. And I've seen, like now, for me, having gone through one season where I've seen players come up from the youth team, playing those matches, and now playing in the national team. That's fantastic. That really, makes me proud, and it's a very long-term view. But while I really respect the foreign players, I also worry for them because coming to Japan at the very end of your career, the temperature in the summer is a big factor. Actually, it's probably a much better league than they expect if they haven't watched J-League. It's quite tough to come in, and you might not get on to be selected as a first team member every week, and especially if you get injured, then it's a little bit disappointing for the fans who might have come there. But having said that, it does bring the fans to the stadium, and I would say the tourist fans who are coming to see one match, and if they get involved and enjoy watching in the stadium, that's very great. But I like seeing the foreign heroes like Iniesta and Torres, but I like watching them in the other team. So,
You guys all agree with this point?
It's kind of on the fence.
Okay, go for it then.
Well, I would say 10, 15 years ago, for sure. You even saw it on a national team. at the '98 World Cup, 2002. You see the players' jaws drop a little bit when they step out on the pitch and they're looking across the other side and they're seeing guys whose posters they probably still have hanging on the wall in their bedrooms. But I think as the national team has gotten better, as the level of play in the J-League has gotten better, there's almost a certain confidence now in the Japanese players. And I don't think that type of hero worship exists as much as it did before. Because I think they now feel, I can play with that guy. You know, and that some have gone over to Europe and have shown that they can play. So I think there is a bit of that still, especially with the younger players. But I think Japanese football in general has a certain confidence level now it didn't have before. They now feel that, yes, I can step on the pitch with these guys and I'm ready to take them on. And I think you see that in the J-League as well. I think some of these foreigners come over now, the Japanese are going, well, I'm better than you. I'm going to take your spot just because you're coming in. And we're seeing that happen. So, whereas, like I said, I was on the fence a little bit. I do agree that that still exists and needs to be flushed out. But over time, as the skill level has gotten better, confidence level has gotten better, I think it's not as bad as it was 10, 12, 15 years ago.
So definitely a significant level of improvement with this topic and concerned, right?
No, yeah, and I think the league can, you know, pat themselves on the back a little bit for doing that, because they're giving the venue for those players to prove themselves. I'm all happy to bring in these foreign players because, you know, let these guys have to fight for a spot against the foreign player.
I think the level of competition has gone up quite considerably also with the window being open for the amount of players or amount of foreign players that can get into one team. We were talking about that latest with the whole Asian kind of spot too. Dan, what do you reckon? Yeah.
Well, it's interesting that you point out the number of that now there is no restriction on the number of foreign players who can come into the league. And Marinos's their starting lineup for the last round of the season had 6 foreign players. And I think that's probably, I mean, it's amazing to see that team composed of so many international players. And I think that if done correctly with proper scouting and a manager with a vision and a locker room that's in sync, it can benefit a club. But as Stuart pointed out, what you didn't see in Marinos is a huge star like Iniesta or Torres.
Right. Yeah, of course. I mean, at the end of the season, what was the success? What was the definition of success? And was it actually success or not? Do you have any words, Sean?
So yeah, no, it's an incredibly difficult topic to unpick. I agree that these players coming in, they do serve a good purpose. It's drawing attention, as Dan just said, with away fans going to the game. I'm not sure if 3-4 years ago, if Vissel Kobe is away, you know, if you think about the home team that they're coming to play against, would the fans be that interested? Especially, maybe not. So it's bringing new people to the stadium. What's important is keeping them there. If they're just coming to watch Iniesta one week and then they're going to go to see a pop concert the next week, or they're going to pop concert. How old did I sound then? What are they called now? Gig? Is it gig?
A gig.
Whatever.
A
one
gig.
of those
Well,
things.
pop concert is good. You kind of translated Japanese into English.
I did that. That's my excuse. It's not.
I think this is kind of blows the argument kind of like into different levels. But when we will talk about improvements that the J-League needs to kind of experience. Just going back to 1993, when I was a little kid, and I actually went to Mitsuzawa a couple of times, taken by my dad because he was driving a Nissan Cedric, you know, and just a bit random. But like, looking at the improvements of the national side and the J-League itself, it has been an incredible improvement, especially lately with the media, with the zone coming in and being able to just check like games, you know, every single day, whatever game that you want, even up to J3 standards. It's good. But it's kind of, do we take it for granted that, you know, lots of people coming into the games? This is fantastic. But on the other end, we have something like this with the foreign players maybe being celebrated too much here. I mean, how do we balance it out there? You know, how do we kind of like take it in? What can we be happy about? What can we be like, we need to change this desperately about? You know, this is something that I've kind of been thinking about as I've been talking to you guys.
I think speaking of sort of ways that you can celebrate the accomplishments, I think that somewhere like the J.League Awards would be a better venue for that. I think that it does seem, in this year obviously they couldn't hold the awards at Yokohama Arena, and so it was a much smaller venue. Not really much inclusion of the J2 and J3, especially as it came on the last day of the J3 season. And I think that you could have a nice send-off ceremony for David Villa at the awards. You can recognize players who are retiring, which the league does sort of to an extent in their sort of Hall of Fame-esque ceremony. Like they recognize the players like Seigo Narazaki and Yuji Nakazawa, who have given their entire careers to the J-League. So I think there are ways in which you can recognize that, and I think that the J-League can sort of treat itself with not quite a little more respect, but the idea that we should be grateful that these foreign players are coming to the J-League. It's sort of underselling how good the league is. It's not 1993 or 94, and we're not really desperate for foreigners to come over. And I think that we should celebrate the fact that the league has improved to the point where Iniesta wants to play here, where Torres wants to play here, and we should find a way to celebrate that instead of focusing on one player who was here for one season.